Hello everybody, welcome back to Arthanex Plays Twilight Struggle, the tutorial Let's Play edition, as I continue to tell you everything I know about how to play Twilight Struggle. We're going to start this time as we did last time. Once again, it's been a few days since I played this game, so just trying to refresh my memory about what was going on and where we left off. We're starting off by looking at the remove from play. So we have 11 of our cards in here, although many of them are very low power cards. We've got a lot of our cards in here. We've got 11 of our cards to only 8 of the Soviet cards, although you can see that many of the Soviet cards, even though we have way more cards, they actually have, let's see, we have 2 4-power ones. They don't have any 4-power ones in here. We have 1 3. They have 4 3-power ones. Interesting. Important cards to note that have been played. Warsaw Pact forms, of course. Always good to see that one gone away. Korean War as well. And Suez Crisis is gone. Camp David Accords doesn't look like has been played. If we look up here, we can see that we have the Marshall Plan, the Mutual Defense Pact, and he has the Warsaw Pact. Yeah, so NATO has not been played and is still in the deck, therefore, and should come up fairly soon. Also, well, let's see. Let's take a look at the discard pile, the other half of the story. So there's a lot of cards in the discard pile. I'm trying to remember if we reshuffle. I think we do reshuffle one more time before the end of the game. 4 scoring cards are in the discard pile. That means that South America scoring, Southeast Asia scoring, and Europe scoring have yet to be played and will almost certainly be played in this turn, or at least this turn or possibly next turn. Although at least one of them, if not 2 or 3, will probably be played this turn on the upcoming turn. Nuclear Test Ban, Red Scare is in the discard pile, Muslim Revolution is in the discard pile. This is a card I didn't really talk about. This is another mid-war card that the U.S. should be aware of. It basically allows the USSR player to make 2 free 3-power coup attempts on non-battle countries, battleground countries in Central America, South America, or Africa. You got to be aware of that card for sure. It makes placing influence in non-battleground countries in those 3 regions significantly more risky. It's currently in the discard pile. Nasser is in the discard pile, so you don't have to worry about that for a little while, which is good because we control Egypt now. And let's see, there was one more that I wanted to highlight as being in the discard pile. Oh, Vietnam Revolts is in the discard pile. So we don't have to worry about Vietnam. So we can probably safely place influence in Vietnam, at least on this next turn, for Southeast Asia scoring without really worrying about it. Alright, let's go ahead and continue. Switch back to our own hand, moving on to turn 6. We're at DEFCON 3. Okay, what did we get? So here's that OPEC card. Wow, we got a lot of Soviet cards, didn't we? We got this one. That's good. That means we don't have to play it. Egypt, Iran, Libya, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the Gulf States, and Venezuela. So Libya is on this list. So he will get 1 victory point if I play that card. That's not that big of a deal. So I'm probably just going to let him play that card. Okay, that card's kind of a 2-edged sword. Not likely to play that one. We have Indo-Pakistani War. That's good, so he can't play that one. We can play that for ops. No 4 ops cards in our draw, however, which is a little bit unusual. We got a lot of neutral cards. Salt negotiations. Ooh, this is interesting. Is there a card in the discard pile? Discard pile is huge right now. If I was ever going to play this for its effect, it would almost certainly be now. I could go get Red Scare. It's probably better just to play it for ops if I'm going to get a card that I'm going to play for ops, though. Be much more likely to want play an event. But none of the events that are in the discard pile. Maybe containment? Yeah, none of the events that are in the discard pile really jump out at me as saying you should play me. Okay, so I probably will just play that one for ops. We also have Arms Race. And Latin America Death Squads. Okay. None of those events jump out at me. I'm thinking Voice of America. That's much better as an event anyway. Through 4 USSR, I could knock him out of Libya, which would mean he wouldn't gain a victory point from playing OPEC. And I could remove some of his influence in Africa. I can often knock him out of Algeria, for example. Seems pretty good. Yeah. Alright, I'm going to headline Voice of America. See what he did. He headlined South America Scoring. Interesting. So there's neither of us have any influence in South America, so he's just playing that to kind of get rid of it. So I'm going to knock him out of Libya. And I'm going to knock him out of Algeria. And yeah, so much for South America Scoring. No points. Okay. But yes, we will commit that decision. And we'll see what he does. Alright, there's NATO. So he drew it. That means he gets 4 ops for it, but at least I get the event. So he can no longer make coup or realignment rolls in US-controlled countries in Europe. And that includes Eastern Europe. Interesting. US-controlled countries in Europe will no longer be attacked by play of the Brush War event, which really only applies to Italy. The only one he would care about. So we can't do coup or realignment rolls in Poland, even if we get to DEFCON 5. But it is a 4 ops card for him. So let's see. Does he reclaim Libya and Algeria? No, he's going to do a coup attempt in Jordan. Okay, so he removed my 2 influence in Jordan. Interesting. So I need to do a coup attempt, and I also want to play OPEC while he doesn't get any points for it. So what should I coup? I would like for him not to be able to coup the Middle East anymore this round. So I'd like to coup a battleground country. And I'm thinking I can't coup in Asia. I'm thinking I'm going to coup Nigeria here. So we're going to go ahead and use OPEC. We'll resolve the event first. He gets no victory points for it. Then we're going to do a coup attempt, and I'm going to coup Nigeria. So we roll the 3. That degrades the DEFCON to 2. It does prevent me from using Arms Race, though, because he has more military ops than I do now. But DEFCON's back down to 2, and we have our required military ops for the round. So now we'll see what he does. Okay, he's using that for influence. Okay. Interesting. He's doing influence in Europe. Well, that makes sense. Alright, so we definitely want to respond to that. Yeah, we definitely want to respond to that. So let's go ahead and use... I think I'm just going to use this. Save my higher influence cards for now. And we'll place 2 influence in West Germany. Counter what he did. He had to use a 3 ops card for it, though. I was able to get away with just using a 2 ops card. So again, now that South America scoring is gone, Europe scoring and Southeast Asia scoring are going to be the two places to focus on. Okay, so he's playing that for influence. All right, I don't feel like I have to respond to either of those moves. So I'm going to go ahead and take the opportunity to play in Asia. So we're going to use the China card for influence. We're going to go ahead and take Vietnam to increase our influence there. I'm going to go ahead and finish off South Korea. So to give us domination in Asia. And we only have 1 point left. So I'm going to throw it in Afghanistan, just to make it a little bit harder for him to control Afghanistan. Of course, he could coup it, but can't do Asia coup attempts until we get up to DEFCON 4. Alright, so we're going to commit that. I like the space race this card again. I'd like to space race this one too, but we'll see how it goes. If he continues to play moves where we don't have to react. Of course, we could also make a play for East Germany. Alright, Camp David Accords. I was wondering where this card was. So we get 1 victory point, and it removes Arab-Israeli war, which is a big sigh of relief for me. It makes it a lot harder for him to take Israel. It also gives us 3 free influence, Israel, Jordan, and Egypt. Which gives me an influence back in Jordan after he took it away from me, interestingly enough. You can see how the cards start to swing the game more towards the American player as the game goes on, for sure. Realignment, interesting. Okay, he does have an advantage on me there. But, okay, so he outrolled me there. Alright.
So, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country
Interesting.
can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
I'm not sure if that was how effective that play was for him, actually. Let's go ahead and play this one for influence. And I have to decide where I want the influence. Got lots of good choices. Southeast Asia is done. I think... I wonder what my odds are of actually being able to take East Germany from him. Probably not great, but I can absolutely force him to defend it, especially if he's holding the Europe scoring card. We can't do realignment rolls in Europe because the DEFCON's down to 2. I want to start fighting him for East Germany? Sure, let's start fighting him for East Germany. He can't ignore it, because if I have control, which means I have every other battleground country already in Europe. If I take East Germany and Europe scoring gets played, then he just instantly loses. So he can't ignore that. So we'll see what he does. I'd love for him to ignore it, but I don't think he will. It's going to kind of tie his hands. I feel like I've got a pretty good position everywhere else. Alright, so he played this. That gives me the China card back. Which means I'm going to get to add 4 US... let's see. No. Yeah, so I just get the China card back face up. Interesting. And he gets a 3-ops card. Well, he's going to have to put it in East Germany. At least 2 of them. Maybe he'll reclaim Nigeria. No, he didn't. Yes, and he did, in fact, put 2 in East Germany. I'm going to continue to push him on East Germany, as I feel pretty good about where I am in the rest of the world, and he has to respond to this. He absolutely. I mean, I'm paying a premium on ops points because it's costing me an extra 2 every single time, but he has to respond to this. He can't not. Play blockade for a realignment. And wow, that was an odd choice. especially since I had so much of an advantage on him. Okay. Interesting. How many more actions do I have this round? He's got one more action. Well, I think it's probably not Europe scoring, but if it is, he's just given me an opportunity to win the game. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take it. So we'll put 4 influence in East Germany and take East Germany. That gives us control of East Germany. And we'll see if this last card is Europe scoring. And it is! And that's the game. There you go. So control is automatic victory. Maybe he was trying to distract. Maybe he didn't have... If he didn't have any 2 ops cards in his hand, he couldn't have taken it back. So there you go. And the U.S. wins the game through Europe scoring. Interesting. Not exactly how I anticipated winning the game, but actually a pretty typical... I would say a pretty typical Twilight Struggle game from my experience. The U.S. starts off with a disadvantage, falls a little bit behind, rallies, starts to take control of the world, and eventually finds a pressure point for the Soviet Union. In this game, it happened to be Europe, but in other games, it's not. In other games, it's various other cards. And at the end of the mid-war, the U.S. wins. This is when I play against the AI, this is, I would say, a pretty typical result, although certainly not universal. The AI in this game, as I said, is pretty good. It probably beats me around 30% of the time, maybe 25-30% of the time, which I find to be pretty impressive, actually. And yeah, so I think, I mean, we covered the early war, we covered the cards you have to worry about in the mid-war. To be perfectly honest, I don't really play a lot in the late war. Like I said, most of my games don't go even into the late war, or certainly not past the first round of the late war. There are a couple of late war cards. I don't feel like this tutorial would be complete without reviewing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end the game. We're going to go back to the menu. We're going to take a look at the settings, and we're going to take a look at the card gallery. And I'm just going to show you guys some of the a few of the late war cards that both players need to be aware of. I mean, there's obviously a lot of significant cards that, and many of them favor the U.S. So this one, for example, it does give USSR an influence in Argentina, but it prevents socialist governments from being played, which is obviously good. This one gives the U.S. 2 influence and removes Muslim Revolution as an event, which is significant. A Muslim Revolution is obviously a huge event. Solidarity plays on John Paul II, gives the U.S. 3 influence in Poland. This one is also very significant. Tear Down This Wall gives the U.S. 3 influence in East Germany, and then free coup attempts or realignment rolls using this card's ops value. Yeah, this is really good. And really significant, and makes it really easy, like, for the U.S. to get control of East Germany. And since they have this and Pope John Paul II, they can get Poland and East Germany pretty easily, and it's not uncommon for the U.S. to win in Europe in the late war. They also, this one prevents play of OPEC, but is honestly not that big of a deal. So then we look at the USSR cards, you can see how much lower ops value they have. And it really kind of drives home the significance of the U.S. advantage in the late war. So this one removes USS influence in Iran and adds USSR influence in Iran. So something to keep in mind. So this one, these two play off each other. These two play off each other, although since they're so high ops value, it's pretty unusual for them both to get played, since they're late war cards and they have high ops value. If the USSR player gets one, they'll generally play it for ops, since their effect is not that good. Probably the most significant late war card that we should talk about, though, is not terrorism, although terrorism is significant, and it's not the Iran-Iraq War, although that one is something to keep in mind. No, it's this one, War Games. So if the DEFCON status is at 2, you can immediately end the game after giving the opponent 6 VPs. So this basically means that if your opponent is ahead of you by 7 or more victory points, and you're at DEFCON 2 or 3, you better watch out, because the game could be, at the end of the game could be right around the corner. I have, and this is probably the main reason why the game doesn't get to final scoring very often, is because almost always by the late war, one or the other country has a significant advantage, and if they draw war games, then it's just over. They can just win. And it's not, because the DEFCON level, as you saw in my game, it's pretty common for the DEFCON level to stay at 2 pretty much the whole game. So, yeah, so just be aware that this card exists. Definitely the most significant card in the late war that you should be aware of. All right, well, thanks very much for watching. I cautioned everybody at the beginning that this was going to be a short series, and indeed it is. It's only going to be 4 episodes, but hopefully you enjoyed it. You found it instructional. If you have any questions or strategy comments or disagreements or other things for me to be aware of, or for other Twilight Struggle players to be aware of, please feel free to leave a comment on this video and let me and the other Twilight Struggle players know about it. And if you want me to do another series, perhaps from the USSR perspective, you can say that too, although the current plan is that this is just going to be the end of this series. Because if I was going to do another one, it probably wouldn't be a tutorial, as we already kind of talked about a lot of the strategy for the USSR, even in this video. The USSR kind of is a little bit different from the US. The US is playing defense throughout the early game and can settle for draws a lot more because, first of all, I think they have a slight overall advantage in the game, and second of all, they know that if they can just hang on until the mid and late war, then they'll start to get a significant advantage. The USSR is a little more difficult. You really have to play aggressively in the early game. You really have to try and go for, you probably have to take more risks, do more long shot coup attempts and things like that, because you know that if the game makes it to the mid-war and the late war and you don't have a significant advantage, you're probably going to lose. So you really have to be aggressive in the early war if you're playing as the USSR. But anyway, as I said, hopefully you enjoy the series. Be sure and check out the other things that are going on the channel. And everybody out there, take care and see you next time.